Today, the plan was to pull weeds, get some harvesting done, and catch up on a few last-minute tasks in the garden. But instead, I did something totally different. All right, so before I tell you what I did, let's start with what first happened. I walked out into the garden, and my squash plants were completely infested with aphids. I don't know about you, but dealing with bugs in the garden is like my least favorite thing. They seem to appear overnight, they are really difficult to get rid of, and they're just a pain. And so I had two options. I could either try to kill them with either some pesticide spray, spraying off the plants with water, sprinkling diatomaceous earth, whatever I wanted to try to get rid of the pests, or I could rip them all out. So I went with the second option, and I ripped them all out. Okay, so now maybe you're wondering, Audrey, why would you do that? Aren't good gardeners supposed to take care of problems and not get frustrated and rip out plants? Well, the answer is it depends. And this is where it comes into play if you're a Zone 9B gardener or not. You see, in Zone 9B, we have super long growing seasons, and so if I rip out the plants right now and replant, I will still get a harvest before our first frost, which is exactly what I'm gonna do. Trying to get rid of pests is a lot of work, and I'm getting ready to leave on vacation, and so I know I don't have time to deal with it. And so ripping out the plants was the best option. And so first I want you to know, if it was just a few aphids, I would never go to the extreme and rip out the entire plant. But these plants were totally infested. And so ripping them out and replanting was definitely the best option. But there was one other important factor that led me to making this decision, and that's what I'm going to share with you right now. Okay, so the other day I cut open the spaghetti squash, and the seeds inside were sprouting. If you happen to notice how the squash looked a little bit rotten, it's only because I cut that one open a couple days ago and I've been saving it so I could share it in a video. Because if you've ever opened up a squash and found sprouted seeds, it's a little bit shocking. So I wanted to talk about it and help you figure out why that's happening. So there are two things. One is that you leave the squash on the plant for too long, and the other might be because it's just too hot. And right now I've had a combination of both. There was a couple of the squashes that I had kept on the plant for too long, but then there are also some that weren't even mature yet that had the seeds sprouted inside. And it's just been so hot so many days in a row, it actually caused those seeds to germinate. So what I encourage you to do is go through your garden and tear out anything that's infested with pests or that isn't producing that great, and just do a midsummer cleanup. Either you can replant things or just leave that bed open for fall and save yourself the hassle of dealing with pests right now, because it is hot and it's humid in certain areas. And so if you don't want to be out in the garden working as much, just tear out some of the things that are giving you trouble and focus your time on the plants that are producing well. We have such a long growing season here in Zone 9B that it's totally possible to just continue to plant things every few weeks. You may have heard the term succession planting, which is when you plant every couple of weeks or every few weeks, even once a month. So then you harvest smaller quantities at a time versus one huge harvest all at once. And speaking of our long and hot summers, have you ever had a day where you just didn't want to go out and water your garden? I know I sure have, and there actually came a point when I was so overwhelmed by my garden, I just didn't even enjoy it anymore. I never wanted to go out and do anything because I was so overwhelmed by all the work it took every day. And so I did something that has made gardening so much easier, and I'm going to share that with you in this video right here. I will see you there.